Welcome to the latest episode of Silicon and Spice, where tech leaders share life's unique flavors. Today we have Manny joining me. Manny is currently an engineer manager at Netflix, and previously he was former engineering director at Carta with almost 20 years of experiences in gaming development, platform engineering space. And he also has a really good newsletter called the Monday Manager. So we have something in common. I have a newsletter video podcast. You also
Right.
like to share your learnings.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Of course. No, thank you for inviting me in.
Yeah.
Happy to.
So the first question I'm curious is, what is your path into engineer leadership?
Great question. I don't feel like I chose this path. I think the path chose me.
Oh, okay.
It is a very funny story. Looking back 15 years ago when I first got into my first leadership role, I was accidentally promoted to management.
Ask for it.
No. Actually, the company hired me as a staff engineer, and I was leading some of the projects in the team. It was a casino company at the time. It is a subsidiary for another company in London, and I worked from Brazil at the time, which, disclaimer, I'm Brazilian, of course. You might have caught by the accent at this point.
I cannot tell the difference.
It's fine. You know, like I already got used to it. But anyways, when I joined the company, my manager was let go with the first month of work.
Okay.
And it was kind of like shocking for the team. We were trying to, cope. As we were a very small subsidiary back in the south of Brazil, my manager came directly to me. My manager was the CTO of the subsidiary. Came directly to me and said, hey, we are growing. We're still like just 70 people. We don't have anyone to get like immediately the manager role. And I think you were the most suitable person to get this role at the moment. And it was like, I politely disagree from you. I don't think I don't think people are going to be happy about this decision. Overall, people were happy about the decision, but I wasn't super happy. And I was told, well, hold on, we are going to find another manager.
Yep.
It's going to be okay. Then I got promoted to director. Then I got promoted to VP. And then I stayed in the company for 4 years. And then I left the company. I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Because I like to do engineering work, even though I've been with a big team in that company. We grew the company. It's time to do something else. I'm super passionate about startups. Then one of my old friends called me and said, well, you're advising me in my startup like for a while. Why don't you join us, to help us with engineering stuff and all of the things you were excited about. I was like, fine, why not, right? Then I got into my journey on my content marketing startup with a few friends. And the day I arrived there, the CTO said, oh, great you're here, Manny. By the way, I'm leaving in 2 days. I was like, what are you talking about?
History repeat itself.
Then I got into the CTO role.
Okay.
CTO for a small company, like 4 or 5 engineers, pretty much like a tech lead, right?
Yeah.
So I was still happy with the position.
Okay.
But then we started growing a little more and, negotiating all the other deals. I got into 500 startups in San Francisco for the acceleration batch 12. And that was an interesting experience, but still eventually as the platform grew, I needed to, wear kind of like the PM hat for a while, which was kind of like my first experiences as a PM.
Right.
In a total of like my 2 years as a PM. It was that time. But it was like PM, CTO-ish, and those are 2 full-time jobs. I couldn't do engineering as I wish to do.
Yeah.
And it was like, what am I going to do next, right? Because, we're at the point where I should be looking around. I really wanted to move to the Bay Area after, the acceleration program and all of that stuff. I was like, it seems to be a very good place to be, even more for tech professionals. I was like, why not like try some things? And then I got an offer from Amazon for senior manager, but they wanted to move me to Ireland first as a senior manager. And they asked me to hire like a bunch of people there. I was like, it's going to take forever to move me back to the Bay Area. I don't think I'm going to do that. And I got another offer from a very small startup by referral from one of my friends. That at the time was called eShares, which is now Carta, which is like a much bigger company. But at the time we were about like 30-ish people, right? Like with my batch included, and we doubled the size of the company. The day I arrived, it got into 70-ish people. And I just joined as a regular engineer, doing happy stuff, tech lead, coding, all of that stuff. And then the CTO at the time came to me and said, you know what, Manny, you're doing such a fantastic job. We love having you here. I think congratulations, you're going to be like the second manager in the company. I was like, you're freaking kidding me. It's like, dude, like 3rd time this happens to me. Yeah. And then, after this point, I was like, okay, do I still know how to do software engineering after doing management for so long, right?
Yeah.
And I stayed at Carta until, I left for Netflix. And this is where I am. And then when I interviewed for the batch, when I decided to leave Carta and started interviewing, I realized, maybe the universe is sending me a message and saying, hey, stay as a manager. It'll be okay. Stay as a manager. You do a good job. And I even talked to my PM at the time at Carta, and she said, Manny, for the sake of the universe, stay as a manager because there are way too many bad managers compared to bad engineers. So it'll be great to keep you there because you're a good one.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Well, that's a really good feedback to receive.
Yes.
So basically, you have an engineering at heart. You are an engineer.
I am a builder.
And you want to be hands-on, but your amazing people skills have the leadership notice you, right?
Yes.
And then they want you to put you in more of like a people manager position. And then you do a good job. So that's how you keep getting promoted. And then now you want to stay on this track, right? To be an engineering manager and be a leader. Yeah.
I think it's the path that makes more sense to me at the moment. I really want to try something else later. Netflix is great. It's amazing. And it's opening so many doors for me to learn more, exercise a little more like strategic thinking.
Yep.
That I, even though I have been in many different places at many different leadership capacities, I think I have a bigger opportunity here to understand the impact of my, how the strategy of my team impact other teams or even the market, what it means in terms of like rolling something out at a global scale, right?
Right.
How does that impact different people? I work in the studio side of things in Netflix. How does that impact all of the vendors working for Netflix when they work in different things at different time? How do you coordinate all of that work like across different time zones?
Yeah.
It's a different challenge that I'm excited to see.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, as I learned at Carta so much about like growing a very small startup into something that has more than 50% of the capital of the market cap of their own market. It was a great experience to me. Like I'm super fond of my memories at Carta. But I'm learning so much more now.
Yeah.
And I feel like next step would be maybe do something myself.
Yeah, wow. That's actually a perfect segue to my second question, which is like, how do you navigate between startups and large companies? So most recently, Carta, I would imagine like kind of almost like a snowball effect, right? When a snowball comes down, you roll it to be bigger and bigger. So that's like your startup journey. Versus Netflix, you want to keep the ball rolling, right? You want to keep the momentum as a large company. So what kind of challenges do you encounter in each space, and how do you solve them? The challenges between the startups and also bigger companies?
That's a great question. I do think the challenges are similar.
Okay.
But they are a completely different scale.
That's a good point. Different scale, okay.
At Carta, we also had a few, facing the challenges at Carta were kind of like, you have some limited ammunition to try to get the target.
Yeah.
And when you get into like a bigger economy, it's like you have a little more wiggle room to get into where you want, and you really want to double down and invest more into that thing and get into that goal. It's absolutely more possible here at Netflix than it was at Carta. Even more when we're a very tiny startup at the beginning. It's like, it's either make or break, right? Being like a Series A, Series B stage.
Survival.
Where, you're in a survival mode. And until you get like into later stages and you break even and all of those things, you're kind of like, selling lunch to have a dinner. Right? Yeah. And whereas like at Netflix, I don't feel like that.
Okay.
Right? Even though I feel Netflix is very responsible, financially speaking. I've been in, I've seen some investments in some areas that Netflix wants to invest very strategically that were very well successful. And we are not very conservative into what we are bullish on, right? Whereas like in startups, you have to be conservative. You have to forecast. You have to make sure like pandemic's hitting and now you have like just 2 years of runway. What are the projections? Do you still keep like the team like at 70 people as you have now, or is it going to shrink the team? How this is going to impact the company economics, right? Like your P&L, what it means for you, right? And for the company. It's a different.
Yeah. So you're saying basically the challenges are always about, could be resourcing, to be investment, but the scale of startups is kind of ride or die versus at a bigger company, you have a little bit more room to invest and also make mistakes, I guess.
Yeah. But conversely, you can move faster in a smaller startup, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because it requires less alignment. If there's something humongous, you have to involve more than 20 teams, 3 different orgs. It becomes complicated. Then you involve like TPMs to help with the coordination, It's a bigger scale problem, right? Whereas in startups, it's like you just like do a tap in the back, you get a tap in the back in a friend and say, hey, can you just like get into a meeting room and debate this really quickly? Of course, this happens here, But when it's something that is that big, like that involves the entire strategy for the company,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's just like a tiny piece into the entire strategy, it's complicated to just making sure everything is aligned, keeping that alignment up and all, right? Although I think we do like a fantastic job here.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a PM. When you think about a project or I guess a product development, if you have more than 15 stakeholders, that is a large amount to manage everybody's expectations.
I wish.
Off.
I wish it was just 15. So my team currently has 13 stakeholder groups.
Groups, okay.
Yeah, so within each group, there is like a different subgroup of stakeholders.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, so working in the studio side, my team manages the ingestion of content for Netflix. So there's a bunch of people working in VFX, post, delivering branded content for Netflix or licensed content for Netflix. They're all different vendors, internal and external people working on. People coordinating the projects. Even compared to my space, I got a small department at Carta for private markets that had a few different stakeholders, mostly corporate people. Feels a lot more complicated being a manager here than being a director elsewhere.
Yeah. How do you solve these challenges? The skills are different, but the essence is very similar.
The essence is very similar, right? And to be honest, the job itself is not very different. It's how close I can be to some problems. For example, at Carta, I could be very close to many of the problems I had in my space because it's more focused, more self-contained. It's like more kind of like a vertical. And here it's a lot more horizontal. Maybe it's just the nature of my team, but feels like, sometimes feels overwhelming. I'm glad I have people like leads, engineers to delegate some of the work, even like at the tactical level or roadmap level, they can partner with me and, divide and conquer. But it's absolutely different. I have to be a lot more selective here than I used to be at Carta. It's like, this is important, prioritization. I remember when I was onboarding my first year here, there's something Netflix called like the first 5 episodes for you ramping up at Netflix. It's kind of like your onboarding process.
Episode.
And the episode 1 is your first meeting with your manager.
Yeah.
My director at the time told me, Manny, you're going to feel like you're drinking water from a fire hose. It was like, come on. Like I came like from a very big org before. I know what it looks like.
Yeah.
He was right. Oh, yes. It was like, it is a massive amount of information flowing freely.
Yeah.
And you have to prioritize what is important to be absorbed and not absorbed, whether this is important for your team and your org or not, and proactively get into that and extracting what is the necessary context to pass downstream. At Carta, it was a lot easier to do that because it was more hierarchical. At Netflix,
fewer layers versus Netflix.
It was fewer layers for sure. It was just like one skip to the CTO at Carta, and here like I'm 4 layers down, right? But it's not even about the layers. It is like how the information freely flow at Netflix. And it's up to you to decide what is important for your area or not, and coordinate with your product partners. Like product people here are very strategic. They are not like in the weeds of like, oh, let me chat with your team and see what do you need. Let's make a stand-up. Forget that. It's like they're very strategic people. You usually don't get like a PRD with all of the requirements that you have to implement at the implementation level, as you usually get in other companies that are more hierarchical. Like Carta used it to be like that, right? Like there's like a very well-defined PRD. You get a strats doc. And from the strats doc, kind of like, okay, what are you going to do? And maybe some organizations operate differently at Netflix. I'm giving my own experience with my own pod, my own organization, But usually PMs here are very strategic, and they know about the details. They necessarily know about the details as all other leaders up to director level, but they act into the strategy level, not into the tactical execution level.
That makes sense. I think that's another level of product management because there's a strategy side, there's also execution side. I think like what I'm doing at Stitch Fit is I kind of do both. There's a strategy doc for my team, and I write on an annual basis. And then there's also project level, I have to write PRD. And what you're saying is Netflix, because the PMs is very focused on the strategy side. As an engineering leader, you have to get tactical to play the execution PM role. Interesting.
That's right.
Yeah. How do you like that?
It is amazing. I'm passionate about that work.
That's amazing.
Some people thrive, some people hate. Most of the people that thrive are here.
Yeah. That's a good point.
It is a choice. If you're not happy with that, it's probably not the best place for you.
That's true. Yeah. it's like a blend of PM and role.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's why we have a lot in common. That's why I can see you being very empathetic as an engineering leader because you also play the PM role. You know the requirements. You know why we are doing this. Yeah.
Right.
Nice. So the next question is, what is the typical day for you? And then how do you, maybe let's start from the question. What is the typical day for you?
I don't think managers have a typical day.
Yeah, every day is different.
It depends on the moment. I usually say it's like an inverted dinosaur. Like the graph of, how it's like a dinosaur chart. It's like it starts thin and it gets like very fat and then like thin again. It's the opposite. It's like every quarter is like it's a massive amount of work to wrap everything up, make the, more plans, reassess plans, get into alignment with other teams, align roadmaps. And then when things start to kick off, like it gradually gets like thinner because then I get into more like focus into like actual work, hands-on work, getting with my teams and coordinating things. And then at the end, it's more like, okay, we are wrapping the quarter, getting into retros, getting into quarterly retros and everything. Then it gets like, complicated again.
Do you have kind of a division of work? So let's say, 5% is like stand up, process management, and maybe 10 to 20% is one-on-one, get in touch with your team. Mm-hmm. And then, the rest could be you playing both the EM and PM work. Like, I understand every day is different, but do you have a good expectation on how much you want to spend your time on each division of work?
Right. I think this is the biggest difference from Carta in here, where here I spend a more equally amount of time across like all of the areas. If you think about the 4 big areas of like people, product, the business itself, and platform, I spend like an equally time into those and try to balance well. At Carta was pretty much like 90% with my teams and making sure like work is getting done. Right. And like the other 10% is just like reporting things and making sure everything is aligned, going into like alignment meetings and things like that, right? Typically, I meet every week with all of my leads and every month or so with all of the other ACs in the team. I do spend a very good amount of time in the week reading drafts, reading memos, because Netflix is a very heavy memo culture.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
And participating in discussions. And I usually PM most of the technical work in the team with some of other leads. Some of the product side as well, like if there's an initiative where it's well-defined, we already have like the strategy well-defined, we align, it's clear, and there's just some ambiguity in between how we are going to deliver, is the value there, is the ROI, can we get it back, or, during the execution, reassessing things and giving better recommendations from my product manager. This is where I step in.
Okay. Yeah. So that's documentation execution from your side a little bit.
Yeah.
Once the strategy is clear. Okay. And I assume that there's also, you follow kind of the life cycle of software development, like agile process. You mentioned you also have quarterly retro and stuff.
No. This is a great question, because if you look into any apps of, those engineering forums out there, like Blind and all, you're going to notice that all of the big techs, they don't follow that.
Okay.
You have to be more flexible than that.
Yes.
Things are going to pivot. They're going to change. You have brilliant people here. Just trust them. They're going to do the work. You don't have to do. Of course, it's not the Wild West.
Right.
We plan things. We size things. We understand the complexity and how big something is. Mm-hmm. But there is nobody like every day, 15 minutes, standing up asking, did you complete your task from yesterday? What are you going to do today? What are you going to do tomorrow? What are your blockers? Nobody's doing that.
On a micro level.
Nobody's doing that. It's like, I am here to support you. Here's the context you need to know about this problem. It's up to you to bring the recommendation on how to solve that problem. Form for dissent with your peers. Validate with other teams. So people are not watching you every day and asking you if you've done that, right?
Yeah.
We make like monthly syncs in my case, in my team. I have 4 smaller pods in my team. I do meet my leads every week, but every month we do like an overall assessment to check where we are in the roadmap, how much we got accomplished, what are the things we see we have to push forward, or if there's anything we need to pivot. Having cross-functional alignment at least once a month as well, to make sure everybody's still aligned on the same goals, so on and so forth. So it's not like let's get like this out of the box process that everybody does for the sake of like, oh, software engineers like that.
But
Yeah, it's like, no, pretty much teams operate differently here. And you're gonna see teams doing like Kanban maybe, right? Because it works for them. And others just like, here are the priorities, here are the initiatives, here are the projects, leads assigned, go for it.
yeah, I like that. That means ICs have a lot more flexibility and freedom. You have trust in them. They know the problem space. They know how to approach things, and if they have blocker, they can escalate to you. But it's not something you follow that, everyday check-in or something.
Yeah, but that also comes with a lot of responsibility. So it's we have a lot of freedom to get the job done, to do what is important, to unblock yourself, to help unblock others. But since you were the person responsible for making, calling the shots into that thing, it also comes with a lot of responsibility, right?
Right, yeah. It goes both ways. Yeah.
Yep.
Now the follow-up question, I think another commonality between you and I is we both have remote jobs. So Stitch Fits, we've been remote even before COVID. So the headquarters in San Francisco, and I try to go in once a week just to see some coworkers and teammates. And you are also a remote engineering leader. So you come here like once a month or something, every other.
About that, I try to be here like every 3 weeks to a month.
So now the question is, how do you keep morale up and make people feel productive and appreciated doing a remote environment?
That's a fantastic question. I'll probably take a minute to think a little bit.
Yeah, take your time. It's a hard one. I mean, I'm also reflecting because my teams are everywhere, right? We play games every other week together, just half an hour. And then we have frequent check-ins, like people do the huddle on Slack and stuff. But I'm curious, like how's your leadership style? How you bring that to your team?
I think there is a loop I follow every quarter of education and practice. So we have at least one offsite a quarter with my team. And during the offsite is where we get like the most team building activities. We discuss what happened in the quarter, and we do most of the education. Something we want to do together. For example, for the past 3 offsites, because I have been a PM before, I invited my PM to be in all of the offsites with me. And we created together a program which is like product for engineers. And they are blasted. It's like, this is so great. It's so fun to see how to interview stakeholders, how to have those conversations, how to prioritize, how do you wear the PM hat sometimes, and and many of them know that already. They do that every day. It's just like it's a different approach, making it intentionally, right?
Yeah.
So we do some readings, like we read like the mom's test together, or interview questions and things. It's fun to do that. And during that process, people can connect the things they are learning with the things they need to learn. And they see, I actually can do that a lot better. They want to do who don't want to do their jobs better, right? And they get a little more motivated with that. And the other aspect is, how do you align your team's work to important work for the company so your IC can see the impact of the work they do every day?
They feel empowered, right?
They want to feel,
get into the core revenue part.
So again, not all projects are going to be the glory.
The monthly
it's like there is some dirty work we have to do as well. We have to pay tech debt. We have to invest into platform. We have to do migrations. All of that. Yep. There is a private joke in my team. We say we are birds. We are always migrating, right? It's like, let's upgrade. Let's do that. But overall, it's just, if you align people to do the work they want to do, that makes sense for their career growth, they're going to be mostly excited, right? And absolutely have fun, as a team. We went to play bocce together. We went to play golf together. We do some of those activities when we're during the offsites. That helps to create the team bonding and get out of just like meeting rooms, talking about projects. We have to get like connection at the personal level.
Yeah.
It makes things a lot easier when breaking the ice.
True.
In a remote environment where you don't know anyone, when you get into the office together, it's a great opportunity to break the ice and become human beings. It's like, oh, so this is actually Manny, and this is this engineer, and now we have like something in common, because I know from the icebreakers we've done yesterday that Manny actually lived in Brazil for 30 years. It's like, I also lived in South America for so long. It's, they can relate and they have something in common, so it becomes like a lot easier, to work together.
I love that. So if I have to do a summary of this, is that you want to have that in-person opportunity as well. So people can feel re-energized, right? Feel
Yep.
like closer together and then bonded better. And then of course, it's nice to have flexible work environment, but having that in-person connection is also pretty crucial.
Yeah. Although it's not mandatory for people to be in all of the in-person. Once there's an expectation that people attend once in a while,
Okay.
and that, those are like, when people attend, I always have like 100% of attendance for my team.
Yeah.
So I'm very blessed as a manager.
Hanging out as a team, so that's good.
That's a great, I feel blessed with this team. I love it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, so for us, my team meets in person once a year. So not as frequent as a quarter, but I can see that it varies between companies. But I agree. I think having that kind of in person could be quarterly planning. As you mentioned, you have like the education opportunity that kind of take you a step back and see the bigger picture among like what you're working on. And I think it is hard to get everybody aligned, whatever their interest lies, to whatever projects in front of them. I think that is a very tricky part, to be honest. I think even for product managers, right? Everybody wants to work on the one that drives the most impact. But sometimes not everybody can get to work on that, right? You have your own domain you have to take care of.
Yeah, but it's like playing Jenga.
Yeah.
Maybe you can fit this right now, but you can fit like in top of the tower, and you can balance that. It's like, hey, hold a second, 2 quarters, this is gonna come. It's gonna be an exciting project for you, exciting opportunity. But have a roadmap
for them, for each individual.
Put together an individual development plan for people that are engaged into their growth, and make sure you follow up like every now and then, every month, every 2 months. Hey, let's take a look into the IDP. How are you doing there? Like, what is the right opportunity to get to this side? What do you want to develop more? And some people are just okay. I heard from an engineer a while ago, and that was back in Carta. When Carta, and this is funny because Netflix also rolled out levels recently, like a couple of years ago. Carta didn't have levels, and then they rolled out levels, and then we were like re-leveling people. And during the levels conversation, I was asking people during the IDP conversations, 99% of the ICs wanted to be a staff engineer. How do I get to staff engineer? It was like, let's have a conversation. Why do you want to be a staff engineer? Or now there's levels, I want to be a manager. Fantastic. Why do you want to be a manager? What is attractive in the work for you to be a manager, right? One of the ICs came to me and it was like, hey, what's going on? How is life?
Yeah.
Really want to, get back to the career growth conversation. I was like, Manny, I'm senior 2 here. Do I need to go up? Like, you don't need to, right? It's like, what do you want to do? It's like, I don't really want to be anything else. So like, I'm super happy doing the work I do here. It's like, that's fantastic, right? Yeah. As long as you're happy, I'm also happy. And we can work together. It's just, at the moment you realize it is an ephemeral relationship where this is not going to be the last team this engineer is going to be on. This is not going to be the last engineer you're going to manage.
Yeah, yeah.
So on the moment, for the time you have together, make the best of it, right? Make what is good for the company, create impact, do what is right for the business, but also align where this person wants to be. What are the kinds of things? I lost an engineer. This is an anecdote. I lost an engineer having this conversation. Here at Netflix, the person realized, you know what? I'm so passionate about startups. I think we're just going to do something else in a startup. I was like, every now and then I call him. It's like, wait, hey, are you convinced to come back? Great engineer. Love working with him. But he really wanted to explore more like being in a very small startup with a very small team. And finding things like from the scratch, because my space in Netflix is a little more consolidated, like it's more than 10 years.
More mature.
Yeah, more mature. And he wanted to be like in a very fresh space where like I can build from scratch. Yeah. I want to understand even how to get into identifying the problems and the opportunities myself, right? And startups are perfect for that, right?
I think that shows you're a great manager because you understand everybody would have different level of expectation for themselves. Not everybody wants to keep getting promoted. I remember, I think Kim Stott wrote a book called Radical Candor. And then she talked about understanding some people want to have the career plateau for a few years. I think she mentioned to her manager, she was trying to get pregnant with her twins and stuff. So at that time, she's now looking for over delivery, right? She wants to focus on manage the existing projects well, right? I made a mistake before. I told once a manager, say, hey, I just want to stay flat, just meet expectation, but that person was not impressed. Everybody should exceed expectation. I think that's a misalignment.
Well, yeah, I understand where the meet expectation came from, but it's more like, if you're doing a great job, that's the reason you're here. It's not about just meeting the expectation, right?
Right, yeah.
It's like, are you happy with the job you do every day? Do you feel like I'm going to the shower, I'm still thinking about some of the things I'm excited to solve. If you can fire, you can, get the fire within the people.
Yeah.
They're gonna pay back, right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm excited about the things I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm proud of the things I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. Do a good job, but at the same time, some people might want to like have a rocket start for the career versus others might want to just focus on the existing projects, as you said, that engineer at Carta.
And
not thinking about promotion. Let me just focus on what I have right now. Happily with like the work-life balance and everything. Yeah.
100%. I like the analogy that Henry, the CEO from Carta, makes about the missionaries and the mercenaries. You're gonna see people behave differently depending on the incentive. And the ones that are super passionate about the job they're doing, the problems they are solving, and they want to do that like as a long-term goal for them. Like it's something, I see myself doing this because I'm part of this bigger thing. He calls them the missionaries.
Yeah.
And they're equally important in their company. But there are people that are going to be there just because, like, I want the title, I want the paycheck, I want this, I want that. And they're the mercenaries, right? In some cases, you will need mercenaries.
It's true.
If you just have a company full of missionaries, maybe you have too many strong opinions in a room, right?
That is true.
Sometimes you just need people to just like get in the room, making sure these are the best people to get things done, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, the missionaries are the people that are going to help you shape the vision.
Right.
Right.
Like go broader, farther. Yeah.
And then it's not, sometimes this is taken as, this person's not going the extra mile. It's like, does this person just want to mix the expectation? Is that, there is no ambition.
Right.
I don't think that's true at all.
Yeah.
I think people are happy doing what they're doing. Yeah. And sometimes in the performance evaluation, it means like meeting expectation, right? Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I appreciate that. I think not everybody has to be the missionary driven type. So I think that's also the diversity in the company is important, right? You don't just have a monoculture. You want to make sure you have a good blend of. The next question is one of my favorites since I work at Stitch Fits. I actually got this dress and blazer both from Stitch Fits. We get a new box every other month. So my question is, what is your favorite clothing brand?
Wow. Can you guess?
I think you like good, like simple, no huge logo type.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think a lot of brands out there that doesn't have logo.
I like the way I dress up because it's simple, it's clean, I don't want to impress anyone. I just want to reduce my cognitive load of making a decision. And Vince, Vince is amazing. I love their t-shirts. I love their jackets. And also AG for denims.
Okay.
Super comfortable, Paige as well.
That's good. Yeah.
Yep. I love it.
She also likes the jeans from Paige.
I'll be honest, there was a phase where I was into some designer brands.
Yeah.
But they're so uncomfortable. Most of them are so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I was like, the only one I really fall in love with was, and my wife introduced me to that world. I was like, there's no turning back. I don't recommend anyone. It is Loro Piana.
Okay.
Gosh, it's so comfortable.
That's a whole new level.
Yes. So, yeah, I know. And it was like, I'm going to be very cautious.
2-year goal. I do like that brand. They have very good, high quality items.
Extremely high quality.
It lasts a lifetime, right? If you think about how often you wear.
And it feels you're wearing a cloud. It's like, it is so comfortable. I don't feel, can I just wear this all day long?
Yeah, okay.
So my favorite, if I'm going to go for a flight or something that I'm going to be long in a plane.
Yeah.
Like when my wife and I travel to Brazil sometimes, it's going to be a 24-hour flight, right? It's like with layovers and everything. Yeah. Like, okay, I'll put like some comfortable things here, like La Loro Piana shoes and like the shirt. It's like, this is very comfortable. I like it. And they look great. Yeah. And clean, no stamps or anything.
Yeah. Have you seen a show called Succession?
I'm sorry, say
again. There's a show called Succession.
Succession?
It's on HBO.
No, I haven't.
Okay. I mean, it's some billionaire drama, but people dress really nicely. Like old money.
I see. Yeah. I see.
So I think Loro Piana.
Absolutely not my case. Until Carta makes an IPO or something, not my case.
Near future.
Near future. Let's see.
The last question is a spicy question. If I remember correctly, you had been a stay-at-home dad for 2 years, and then you came back to the workforce. So which one is harder for you?
I think they are hard. Both are hard.
Yeah.
There are different types of hard. I wouldn't change anything on our decision at the time. So when my wife got pregnant first, we realized, like as a software engineer at the time, as a software developer, I could work from home, I could freelance. So I didn't feel like, I'm not doing my thing anymore, but I left my job intentionally to stay with her and just like with freelancing for the first 6 months of pregnancy. And when she delivered, we decided to stay home like until her maternity leave was at the end, and she got back into like finding a job. It was a lot better for her to keep her job at the time because it was easier for me as a software developer to just get a job later. It was easier.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, let's do it. Let's see how it goes. And when my kiddo got into school age, like daycare and all, like about 2 years old, then she started going to daycare, kindergarten, and all of this stuff. And then I got back into working in a company. But that was such a fantastic experience.
Yeah.
That even though it was very hard because I felt, and this is the funny thing, as a first-time parent, you try to over-prepare to be a parent.
Yes.
And nothing goes right. Nothing goes as you expect. No matter the book you read, there is no manual, right? And we overly prepare for the first pregnancy. And when we had our second kiddo, even though my wife stayed with the kiddo at the time because of, I already very late in career and all of that stuff, we decided that she would stay home this time. It was a lot, at least, of course, I cannot say it was easy. Of course not. She was with her. But I say we felt more prepared. We didn't panic. I was like, oh, we know what's going on here, right? Because we have been through this before. Yeah. And the first one was kind of like learning the way, Yeah. Kind of like first time job.
Right, for sure.
But I truly think, like that opened my mind to, single parents, parenting kiddos alone, mainly moms, with the expectations set upon them. It was like, it made me create a lot of empathy for them.
Yeah.
Right? It's like,
so a better empathetic leader.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely.
I hope so.
Yeah. So was it tough for you to come back to the workforce when you interview, get offers? Some people are afraid of career gaps, right? But you took the time to take care of your family, to bond with your little girl. But do you find it hard to join the workforce back?
It was difficult to explain why I was, and even more. Brazil has a very peculiar culture of like, why is a man actually raising a kid, right? The wife's supposed to do that. And I was like, okay, let me try to get back to the workforce, right? Okay. And people asking questions like, oh, why are you freelancing all of this time? It's like, why even leave your last company? It was like, well, explain. Yeah. My wife got pregnant. We really wanted to have like a very good family time. We had the option. We could opt for just getting along with freelancing. So we did it. Very few people believe that. Okay. Right? Yeah. And it's kind of like, is that true though? Even more when you say I was actually home staying with my kid because it was easier for my wife to keep their job, blah, 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 all that stuff. It's like, oh yeah, you're such a great guy. But it's like poker face. They don't believe you. The same thing happened with people today being laid off. Yep. It's like, oh, I don't believe it's not performance. I don't believe it's this. I don't believe it's that. There is nothing that makes you create more empathy for people than experiencing that yourself. Yes. 100%. And have experienced that by that time made me open my eyes of like, there's so many people, hundreds of thousands of people in the market now. They're so talented. And unfortunately, they got affected. They got impacted by layoffs, right? Yeah. And it's hard for them to get back. It's a super competitive market. It took me a while to get back. I needed like to explore a lot of my network, friends, people making referrals for me. Eventually it worked out, but I had such a bad luck that like I got back into the market. I was hired as a game developer at the time, and 2008 crisis knocked out, and then I was laid off. And then as a game developer, nobody's hiring game developers anymore. It was like, well, everybody's like, you remember in San Francisco, I remember reading the news and everything of people just leaving their cars into like in the street because like they don't have money to pay. It was like, I'm just gonna get a flight, go elsewhere, just take my car back, just take my house back, whatever. Everybody was broken at the time, right? And then of course, who is gonna spend money with games when the economy is like that? And of course, I saw that coming, right? Yeah, okay. But it was very hard to get a job as a game developer, so I pivoted the career and tried to start like more, generalist software developer positions, and I could get a job in between. I had some, platform engineering experience already, although I was very passionate about games and doing game development work. A company back in time was hiring someone that was helping to develop an operating system that only runs games.
That's perfect.
And it was like in between, and one of my friends said, well, and one of my friends were in the company. And it was like, oh, Manny, you should come work with us. And from that point on, I was like, okay, I'm employed.
Yeah, I'm glad. It really shows how resilient you are. I mean, you had to explain yourself as many other moms had to do the same thing, right? You have to say, hey, here's why I took a career break. And then, I'm glad that one company believed in you, even though it didn't work out being laid off, but you were able to pivot and then continue to pick it up.
I think you know the feeling being a parent yourself, right? It's like when you're a parent, there is no option of failure. It's like there's no option to fail.
The family.
Well, you have a family. It's you, your partner, you guys get it.
Yeah, got to take care of another human being.
Yes, and that
every penny matters. Yeah,
exactly.
I hear you.
There's something looking up for you, right?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story, Manny. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for inviting me in.
It was fun.